So this last week was the DiverseAthon, and how did I go? Yeah. So I only got through a few pages of Shadow Shaper. I didn't read much of anything this week. Unfortunately, sometimes life does not find a way. However, I still wanted to make a video and talk about this amazing readathon created by 4 fantastic booktubers. Christina Marie, She Might Be Monica, Scribbles Reads, and Witty Novels. Links to their videos in the description below. All of this is designed to celebrate diverse characters, stories, and writers. Sometimes the question gets raised of, why are people forcing diversity? Or statements of, I don't mind diversity, but I just wish they'd stop forcing it into books, or movies, or comics, or whatever they're accused of forcing diversity into this day. The obvious point is that diversity isn't forced, it's a fact of life, it's reality. People are from different backgrounds and live differently. However, history hasn't always put those lives on equal footing, and society is still reflecting this. I'm not going to say diversity isn't forced. I'm going to say it needs to be. A few days ago, PBS Ideas channel came out with a video about Facebook algorithms, the link's below, and talking about how even in a digital system, there is a bias because people create those systems, and their own biases are reflected. Often, prejudices get to be self-sustaining. Most people read books about white leads, so people write books about white leads. So people buy books about white leads, so publishers decide that the only thing the audience wants is books about white leads. I love Goodreads, but their recommendation system rarely, if ever, shows me books by diverse authors because I haven't previously been reading them. While I could basically fill a bookshelf with recommendations for badass female white leads. There's no shortage of those these days. In the age of the algorithm-driven recommendation, diverse or not becomes its own checkbox and secluded into its own section. We have this idea a lot of times in society, the default and the deviation. The default being what's normal and the deviation being what's different from that. The default is universal, the deviation is only for people who have that deviation. Even the world does not reflect this, our entertainment and culture often display the default as white, straight, cis, usually male, able-bodied. This is the universal experience we say anyone can relate to. But change the character's skin color, and all of a sudden that story is now only for people who have that same skin color. Not only does this limit the voices of those already marginalized in society, but it also means that if you don't step outside your comfort zone of recommendations and actively search out these books, then you lose out on all these amazing worlds and different stories. I didn't get a chance to finish any books this week, but diversity isn't limited to a week. So I thought I'd wrap up this video sharing with you some recommendations of diverse books that I loved and also some ones that are on my TBR. Remember, just because a book has diverse characters doesn't mean it's not harmful. Even well-meaning authors can screw up and make mistakes. Read reviews to see what the communities that are represented think of that representation, and always signal boost own voices. Okay, recommendation time. First up, we've got Monstrous by Marjorie Liu and art by Sana Takeda. This is an amazing graphic novel, only the first volume's out so far. It is intense, the world shares a lot of the despair and just oppression that the Attack on Titan anime and manga brings across. So, age warning, this one's an adult graphic novel, but if you're into something like that, this is so good. Definitely worth the read. Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. I love this book. This book is a lot of fun. If you like shipping characters and banter, this book is for you. Lots of that. Binti by Nendi Akorafor. Okay, said that one correctly, according to my peanut gallery. Fucked up gallery though. So yeah, this is a short story about a young woman who's the first of her community to go to this intergalactic university. It's her journey, her development, and just dealing with the excitement and the displacement feeling when you're leaving home. It's a really great read. The Girl from Everywhere by Heidi Heilig. This is a really fun time travel adventure romance story. I adore the main character. I adore the magic system in this. This is a fantastic, a really original concept involving maps, and you should definitely read it. And the love interest is quite Aladdin-esque. It gets points from me for being reminiscent of my childhood crush. Oh, like you didn't love him too. Beyond the Red by Ava J. This is a romance-heavy action-adventure story set in the politics of an alien world. I personally would have liked more politics and less romance, but I might be in the minority with that one. So if you were after a romance story, this is one for you. Miss Marvel by Willow Wilson and art by Adrian Alfona. This is one of the breakout hits of Marvel's superhero genre at the moment. She's such a great character. The story's really fun. A great all-ages read comic. If you haven't read it, why have you not read it? Go read it. Why are you watching this when you could be reading this? It makes no sense. Princeless by Jeremy Whitley and Emily Martin. This, if you're looking for a comic for your kid, it is about a young princess who decides that she is not going to put up with being locked in a tower and guarded by a dragon, waiting on a prince to come save her. She's going to rescue herself. And now she's going to go off and rescue her 7 sisters who are also trapped in their own towers, because how else do you think marriage works in a magical world? Yeah, a lot of fun. My only complaint, doesn't come out frequently enough. That's my complaint. Next Wave, Agents of Hate. This is the last graphic novel. Yes, it is. I just had to double check that. This is a Marvel story. Unfortunately, this is all it is. It's just one volume. They only released one volume of this hilarity. If Harley Quinn's your cup of tea, if Deadpool's your cup of tea, if snarky anti-heroes struggling to get by is your cup of tea, then you will drink this down. This is a fantastic story. Written by Warren Ellis and Stuart Immonen, this is just a great, fun story. 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. You like romance? You like dark, brooding bad boys? This is for you. Although, while some might only have a vampire and whatever dangers that might bring, this one has a god. So, up the potential danger just a bit. But this is a very intricate story. If you've not read any high fantasy before, I wouldn't recommend you starting with this one, but definitely a great adult fantasy read. Some sexy times in that as well, so judge by your age. Okay, so those are all the ones that I've previously read before. Now we're getting into my TBR, so I can't say for certain how good these books are, only that I am very excited to read them. First we've got Shadow Shaper by Daniel Jose Older. This is a fantastic one about street artists and magic. I've heard it is a little bit Cassandra Clare-ish, so if you're a fan of that, you should enjoy this. Plus, it's really short. Look how short that is. One could have knocked this out in an afternoon, but I didn't, because I didn't have an afternoon. Guilty. But, yeah, still definitely a great read based on the 3 pages I'm in. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Do you like dystopia but are sick to death of all the YA tropes that got introduced with Hunger Games and just settled across every single dystopia ever? Well, thankfully this one is free of pretty much all of them from what I've heard. It's a little bit more adult, but I definitely think it's something that a lot of people should read. That's why I'm gonna read it soon. The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. That's right, N.K. Jemisin again, the author of the 100,000 Kingdoms, has written this fantastic fantasy story. This just recently took out the Hugo Award, and it's also nominated for the Nebula and so many others. So I'm excited for this one. Again, I'm expecting another high fantasy. Throne of the Crescent Moon by Saladin Ahmed. This is a high fantasy set in a more Middle Eastern setting. From the one page that I've read of this, it's not necessarily for a younger audience. It opens with a torture scene. But yeah, if you're a fan of adult fantasy, this is one for you. Now, I couldn't very well leave off without telling you about an Australian author. So we have The Interrogation of a Shala Wolf by Amberlynn Kawai Molina. This is a sci-fi set in Australia by an Indigenous Australian author. It has the main character being captured and her story is revealed through the interrogation that she's suffering through. This has been very highly recommended to me by someone on Twitter, so I am keen to start this, and it has moved up the list, and I will be reading this right after Shadow Shaper. So yeah, a whole bunch of books to start you off there. Not to mention that there are dozens, if not hundreds, of lists on Goodreads, online, of own voices stories, of diverse characters, diverse authors, just so many waiting for you to discover if you just make the effort to go outside the immediate recommendations. So that's all from me. If you've got any recommendations, please let me know below in the comments. I hope you guys had a great DiverseAthon and continue reading strongly. I'll see you on Friday. Goodbye.